First, you are going to want to remove your skid plates. You might be able to reach the inboard side of the CV with a long crowbar, but at least removing the front skid plate makes the job a lot easier. We removed both the front and the differential skid. The footage didn't turn out because my vehicle isn't lifted very high, but it's just a mix of 12mm bolts at the corners. After that, loosen the lug nuts on your wheels, 21mm socket if you are using the factory nuts.
Very good. Wheel there. Good.
Like most vehicle repairs, the most dangerous part is working underneath. I like to secure the vehicle to the frame with jack stands and then put light pressure on my hydraulic jack on a cross member or differential to act as a backup in case the stand fails. Use your best judgment. A lift would be ideal, but many of us don't have access to them.
And for backup, I'm going to put this under the front diff. Still have it.
Next, I used a flat screwdriver to gently tap off the dust cap. Notice the brake caliper is removed and tied back to the frame. You do not need to do this. I did this based off some directions I found online. It is not required. In fact, removing the rotor not only takes more time, but makes the job more difficult and can lead to unnecessary damage of the brake lines. If you're going to reuse the Cotter pin, as most of us will, gently work it straight and pull it out. It might take some time, and a combination of needle nose pliers, dikes, or even channel locks might be required to easily get it out.
Just gonna work it back and forth. Oops. There we go. Okay, we are going to take off this sway bar end link nut, and I'm going to get it with some Croil. It's got some dust in it. Hopefully it's not rusted. It should be 17mm. We'll let that sit for a second and we'll get it.
With the vehicle off the ground, the sway bar link is going to be trying to hold the suspension up. You'll need to gently hammer out the end link. I found the flat edge of my screwdriver was the right size to tap on it without risk of damaging the threads. Putting a 6mm Allen wrench into the link and tapping on the wrench might actually be a safer strategy. Even then, you may need to move the jack stand under the control arm to lift the arm enough to get the link in a neutral position to pop it out.
Okay, here's the fun part. We're gonna take our 35mm impact. We're gonna set that on the axle nut. They say this is a pain with the bar. You'd want impact or air impact or electric impact if you're in a shop. On the trail, good luck with cheater bars. See if I can do this one-handed. She goes. Since I'm going to use this as a spare, I've tightened the nut back on so it's flush to protect the threads, and I'm going to hit it with a mallet. Man, that loosened up right up. That's nice. I'm going to get these bolts bottom of the control arm, these 19. We're going to get those out, but we're going to leave the ball joint on, and that will allow the rotor to swing out. That bolt, and then the one right here. Correction, 19mm bolts. Hopefully you can. I'm just going to put that there. Now we're out with the front side of the CV joint. Clean that up a little bit. Looks good. Again, I don't have the floor jack up here with much force. The weight is on the jack stand clear at the back of the frame. But I hate getting under vehicles unless I got two forms of protection in case one fails. There's the front diff. There's the axle, and you can see the cracked area where my boot sheared, and then right here God, there is no groove on mine. This one has no groove. I'm just gonna hit it right here with the crowbar. You don't want to hit the seal, you want to hit the axle. I'm just gonna hit here because you don't want to damage the bearing there. And then I am gonna take this, set it under here.
The secret to tapping out the CV joint is to have a heavy hammer and just gently tap your screwdriver or crowbar. It will come out, but you will want the mass of the hammer behind your taps. The idea is to bounce the C-clip out of its groove to free the axle.
Oh, easy. Okay, let's reach in here. That should come. My grease gun is out of grease, so I'm going to take some leftovers on the bottom of the grease. Just a little bit, that's probably too much. And we're going to grease these splines just so it goes into the diff really easy. And we'll do that on the hub side too, but not right now. Once you have the lube on the splines, make sure that you put the opening of the C-clip up. And that way, when you stick it in the diff, that's going to come down and lock it into place so it won't bounce out as you're going up and down washboard roads. You're pulling on the brake line because I got the hub out of the way, which is not good. It'd be easier if you left the caliper on. Make sure that C-clip is on the upside, and we did. Push that in as far as you can with your hand. I know.
Oops, how come the video went off?
It just does say battery.
How do we get it back?
It's fine. It's still recording. Okay, I'm using the soft end of my big breaker bar.
Again, use consistent gentle taps with a heavy hammer to seat the axle to the diff. You'll know you are set when the tone of the taps change, and it feels different when you tap. Just make sure you don't damage the boot or axle seal.
Okay, once you gently tap that with the hammer, you'll feel the feedback change, and that's when you know you're set. And you can come in under here on the diff and see this metal cover that covers the dust seal. It'll be flush against the diff. So the differential is on the left, the seal is on the right. There's no gap. That is seated all the way. Grease this up just a little bit. Don't need a lot. You just want it to go in. Nice. Feed this side through. And we're in. Hard part's done. Put this jack now on the lower control arm. Right there, and gently lift it up. Okay, with the jack on the lower control arm, you can see how low of a gap we are. We're gonna lift this up and let that seat. And then you can see the sway bar disconnect. Make sure this end link, it can be jammed on your boot. You don't want to damage it on the boot. So before you put any force on the jack, make sure this is up and out of the way. We're gonna just snug these up first, and then we'll worry about the others. There we go. Got a lot of flexibility, but not removing that ball joint or the tie rod or the upper control arm ball joint is why, in theory, when we bolt this together, we don't need to do an alignment. Now the Toyota manual would have you remove this ball joint, which I don't know why. Then they're gonna have you remove the ball joint on the upper control arm so the whole spindle will flow out, which might make the job easy, but then you're paying for an alignment. And if you're watching this video, you're like me, and you're cheap, or you don't want to be inconvenienced because you don't have access to your own alignment kit. So we're doing it this way. Let's get these bolts on snug, and we're going to torque them down since they went in really nice so that you don't forget, because this is a life safety hazard right here. Okay, these bolts right here are 166 foot-pounds. We're going to get them equally 19 millimeter, equally snug with just the ratchet before we get on the torque wrench.
You see your light?
Yep. Then with this dust cover, we're going to put a little extension on it. We're going to put a little extension here. We're going to alternate back and forth to try to get equal. Doesn't bind. I don't know if that's necessary, but it's good practice. Wow. Oh, God. I might have to brace my legs. Such a satisfying sound. Okay, we're lifting the control arm now that we got the bottom secured.
A little more.
Got it. All the way flush?
Yep.
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. Okay, 6 millimeter Allen screw to hold it. A ratcheting wrench. This box end is going to be really nice here. It's 17 millimeter. We're going to hold it there, and that should allow us to cinch this up. Okay, once that's tight, it'll hold its own, and we will get the torque wrench for 52 foot-pounds. That's the breaker bar.
$52.
Yep, 52. Okay. All right, 173 foot-pounds, and hope it doesn't spin on us. 35 millimeter.
I'm watching the apps.
Catching. So that's good.
Now, if you are unlucky like me, your castle nut will not be aligned to fit the cotter pin when you reach your final torque. Don't back it off. It doesn't take much to release the tension on the axle. Always over-tighten slightly so the castle nut ridges clear the hole to allow the insertion of the pin.
And then this one, I want to bend down around that key if I can. Oh, God. What a pain in the butt.
Put your hammer and tap it up there.
That one's up there. This one can't go in. Yeah. I'm gonna tap that one into this key. One's into that key, and this one can just float, I guess. Don't ding the threads. Which I kind of buggered.
For whatever reason, this particular cotter pin was giving us trouble. The idea of tapping with the screwdriver wasn't a good one. As you can see, an errant whack could damage the axle threads. We had better luck using large channel locks and squeezing the pin into the castle nut slots.
I don't know, this is a crappy one.
Let me try something. Where's your channel locks? Gotta get it.
Yeah, they're not good ones.
There we go. He's just a little bit more.
Oh, there you go, perfect. I like that.
And you can grab that one too.
Yep, I like that. That'll work good. Okay. Rubber mallet, tap that around, and we're in. Put the wheel on, we'll show that, and then we're good to go. We'll have to do